Hello and welcome to the T2 Hubcast with me, Tracy Roberts. And I actually have two guests with me today that want to say hi. Say hi.
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 I am joined today on the podcast by Joe and Alex, and they have joined us. Where are you from, guys?
We're from Project
Don't say
Y.
Hull.
Technically, I'm from Scotland. I'm from Scotland. So we're from Project Y Training. We're a small group personal training facility in Hull.
Amazing. So probably full disclosure, I train with these guys, so I trust them, and that's why they're in the podcast room with us. And hopefully they're going to be joining us for a range of different topics in the near future. But today we're going to discuss something quite interesting that kind of interweaves with a lot of the conversations we have around your business, health and well-being. We're going to discuss health, how we see it's an outfit that looks different on everybody. This is a big subject, isn't it?
I suppose it depends entirely on the background you've had around fitness, whether you experienced in it or not, what environment you've been brought up with it. But a lot of the time, it's what information you've had access to that dictates your understanding of health in general, but also fitness and the training and the impact that has. So I think one of our sort of missions when we founded the brand was to improve the education side of what we do as well. And if we could elevate the standard across the board, not just for us and our members, but ultimately it's about having that wider impact.
Yeah. Do you think people make that link? So that's a really good point you make there of health versus fitness. That's a good debate as well. Like, do you think people see it differently?
Yeah, I mean, fitness is deemed as health when there's a lot of fit people who are very unhealthy.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, there's a lot of fit people who are very unhealthy. Especially with how it's marketed these days. So like you get a lot of your bodybuilders who look in shape or on Men's Health, but I would not deem a single one of them healthy. Whereas that's where, everyone who's trying to get fit, healthy wants and aspires to look that way.
Yeah. A lot about aesthetics, isn't it? It's even a word that's thrown around even more now. My 13-year-old daughter uses that word and that scares me a little bit. But yeah, perception's a bit of a weird thing, isn't it, with health and fitness?
I think it's helpful now that things like aesthetics are starting to be separated from fitness. You're now starting to hear more about performance-based fitness, health-based fitness, more occupational well-being as a side to training, and then aesthetics being its own, almost categorized like a sport. Like it's sort of accepted that it's not just general health and well-being; it's a specific branch to its own that has its own risks, just like any other sport.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a really great point because a lot of people will look at people that are on the front of Men's Health or women's health, whatever it might be, and think, is that the perfect body? But I guess we've kind of gone 360 because it's gone from being what's classed as the perfect body, which is another debate in itself. And then we're seeing a lot of sort of different body shapes being depicted. And you get so many pros and cons to both sides. You get arguments from both sides, don't you? Is it good to glorify that as an example or... Yeah, interesting debate.
Just to jump in on that as well, the other thing as well that people don't talk about enough is genetics. Like people in front of Men's Health, there's one who's recently been on who we know and we work with a little bit, and the man is genetically gifted that way, and he's a workhorse. He trains, he's very fit, but he's also his genes support him to look that way. So and again, that's not something you're going to put in front of Men's Health. Is it? They're not going to go, oh yeah, but my genes help me, because we don't know that, but they do play a massive part in aesthetics and shape. Yeah,
that's a good point as well, because I think people, like from my own experience of working with clients as well, is a lot of people will blame their genes the other way, won't they? So do you get that?
Yeah.
A lot?
Oh yeah. Honestly, it's like, all right, you tell me. I don't even know my genes. You tell me how your genes are affecting you.
If you can find out a lot about yourself. I did a DNA test about 5 years ago to check a lot of things, and what it did give me was an indication as to how I'm built, what I should eat. It told me like my power to endurance ratio, things like that. So, and what it actually did was come out with something that said, based on your makeup, these are the sports that you should do to excel. It doesn't mean you can't do the other things.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting because what did it say? It said weightlifting.
Yeah.
It said track cycling. And I think it was something else that was kind of like short and sharp, and I can't think what it was. It might have been sprinting or something like that.
Power-based movements.
Yeah. I was 82% built for power.
Which would explain your cleans. Powerful claims. I can
I'm glad
second
that you didn't go
one.
with the snatch there, because there's always a snatch joke in here and people don't get it if they're not working fitness, so we won't go there.
Yeah.
But no, I think genetics plays a massive part. Some of this stuff I've wrote down is like life stages for people as well.
Yeah. Especially women.
Yeah.
Well, and again, it can happen earlier stages. But just go back onto that a little bit. When you got those tests, because some people, for me, I like information, but I also don't like too much information. Because if you know everything, you start to worry about X, Y, and Z, or you use excuses.
You do, yeah.
So how did you find getting that information helpful? Did it help back up what you knew already? Or is there anything in there you thought, well, maybe I shouldn't do that, or I should do this?
It made me think differently about a few things, but it also made me feel better about myself. I know it sounds weird because, for instance, I'm quite ickle. And I've always wondered, why can't I like running? I used to force myself to go running.
Nobody likes running.
No, we don't. Yeah, can I just remind you of that on Saturday when you were making me run?
That's why I make you run.
Yeah, but it's little things like I've always thought, even through my teaching career, like certain classes I found easier or harder or whatever. And then even genetically, why I can't turn my shape in certain ways, it made me feel better about myself because I thought that explains a lot. What it didn't make me do, which is what some of my other colleagues did, was make excuses. I thought, what can I eat?
That's my worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, it said weird things on it, like, the types of food that would benefit me more. And funnily enough, some of them I actually craved, which was weird. And like I said, it outlined the sort of activities that I'm naturally inclined to be better at. So for me, it made me think, well, actually, for years, I've been plugging away, getting on the bloody Stairmaster like everybody. Bloody hate it. Don't feel like I get any benefit. This is actually stating that I probably don't get as much benefit as most people. So then at that point, about 8 years ago, that's when I went fully into Olympic lifting and doing the power-based work that I was doing. Boxing was another thing that I took up at the time because I found that was beneficial. So it made me think differently. And then it made me view my health differently. So that's how it benefited me. But I can see why people would use it as an excuse sometimes.
And it does tie in with... if you go back to like the experience side of it and what it is that you're used to doing as well, the number of people who will go to that. So like if you're doing a DNA test or something like that, that should be sort of like the last 2 or 3%. Like you've tried doing something for a while, and then you've not got the result out of it. I would never advise that somebody's first introduction into fitness.
No, definitely not.
And that's where we get where we face a lot of barriers. Is it's that misinformation of someone seeing this catchy tagline on Facebook or Instagram that says if you do these 3 things you'll lose body fat.
Yeah.
Which 9 times out of 10 is a red flag anyway, because especially belly fat, because you can't dictate where you lose fat.
No.
Spot reduction's a big assumption, isn't it?
So when people will go and try these 3 things, then it doesn't work, they'll immediately go into panic mode and say, right, now it must be genetics.
Yes.
So straight away the marketing or the misinformation has led them down the wrong path where they've quit before they've started.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is, for that person, it might just be you need to increase your step count, reduce your calorie intake slightly, and just start basic. And just cut. If you've covered the basics, you will see improvement. When that plateaus out, then it's the time to excel.
Yeah.
But don't get caught up in the nuances of the science behind it until you've got that foundational base.
That also links with like the swimmer's body illusion, if you've heard of that, where everyone sees how good swimmers look, and I must do. I need to swim. It's like no. Swimmers swim because they're naturally built for swimming, and they've been just like you've been sort of said like your more power based movement's going to help you, and it's like. Is looking at that thinking, oh, if I do that, I'm going to get that. And it just doesn't work for everybody, does it?
No. And that's what scares people, I think, about this health element is, so going back to the initial point was, is there a link between like that sort of how we see health and how we perceive where fitness kind of falls in there? I think that sometimes people don't see that as a health. They pretty much think the only way to have health is to have fitness.
No, you can have health without fitness.
Yeah. So what misconceptions have you seen around that, or how have you unpicked that with people? Because people listening to this podcast right now, a lot of them are very busy and think, I don't have time for fitness. They do probably if they really thought about it, but it's whether they enjoy it.
Well, if I jump into just what you said then about step count and everything from there. Again, the research on everyone does need to move more. That's correct. It doesn't mean you need to start doing CrossFit or start doing Olympic lifting or something like that. If you enjoy that, it's a good again, enjoyment is probably one of the key things when it comes to fitness, because if you enjoy it,
Yeah.
you're going to stick at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, everyone needs to definitely move more. That's been researched. It doesn't have to be 10,000 steps. It just has to be move more. I think recently there's something about 4 to
7,000.
Yeah,
I think.
4 to 7,000. I think it's even something a little bit lower than that. But that was to decrease the risk of disease, wasn't it?
Yes.
Again, which people use as an excuse as well. But anyway, but yeah, people definitely need to move more, but people don't always need to eat less. And then, again, I don't want to dive into that topic because it could be hours.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, that's another podcast. But it's just finding the balance that works for you. And a lot of people know what does work for them and what doesn't work for them. And I think people being aware of how they feel when they do certain things. And again, a lot of the research is now pushing towards how people feel about it, and people don't want to talk about feelings, but that is where it's going. It's how it reacts to their body, how they react to that emotion, whether they're actually going to take control of it and do the things about it, or they're just going to let that take over them.
Well, our listeners all want to talk about how they feel.
Yeah, that's good.
Because part of the big thing we do here is we use our print tool, psychometrics, to work out how they're wired. And sometimes that is a link into how they approach their health or their fitness goals. You know, if someone's got high and succeed and achieve, there's normally a link with some sporting background or a need to be part of an individual. But for other people, it's individualism, and actually to them, it's important for them to do things.
Well, to be fair, looking at me and Al is we operate, but we share the exact same interest of what we want to achieve, but we operate very differently.
Okay.
He operates more in a competitive environment, like with the training.
Never.
You're a little more extrinsically motivated, not in terms of money side of things, more in terms of like I want that competition,
bit of achievement.
Yeah. And
you came from sport, though.
Yeah, you came from sport. Yeah. But whereas I'm quite happy. Just building on
ticking your boxes.
And like for example, most people, I'd happily sit in a dark room on an air bike for hours on end and just
that is just wrong.
For me, it's something within myself, and I like to work on different areas, but I'm not too fussed. I like the competitive environment from time to time, but I don't need it.
Okay,
and that for me isn't like the big push. And again, just deciphering how people work and what works for them. And again, fitness doesn't. We both love fitness, but how we approaching it, the fitness is very different.
Yeah, and that links in great with how we approach most of our conversations, even around leadership and stuff. We'll look at your motivators, internal motivators. We call them your unconscious motivators. We'll look at how you see the world and how that can be intertwined to relationships, job, and it even does cross over with your health and well-being. Because for some people, an example I can give is some people who fall into what we call shadow behavior, or when they're not performing at their best, there is a direct link between that health element, because it is important to them to be fit or healthy or move more or whatever it is, and then they're not being able to because of the commitments of the job. So that in itself causes a little bit of an issue with their performance at work. So there is a direct link between your health and your well-being and how you perform at work, right? And I bet you get that comment a lot from people that you train.
And we do see a lot of people, especially people who haven't necessarily got a massive background in training. Within
the first 3 weeks, I always say the first 3 weeks,
at least within a month, we've had someone say they're even getting more stuff done at work. Like just the productivity, because the body itself is the biggest tool. Like, and ultimately, what it is it's a tool. Like your body's a machine, and if you don't take care of the machine's going to break down.
Yeah.
And if the machine is what's doing your job and earning your money and doing all those things and looking after your partners and your kids, if your machine isn't functioning properly, you're not going to be able to produce that output at all, if not, certainly not the standard that you'd want it to be.
The next T2 Leadership Retreat will take place on the 7th to the 9th of May 2024. To book your place on the ultimate leadership development experience from the People Performance People, or for more information, please visit www.trans2performance.com.
One of my icks that we went through is people seeing one of many, but people seeing gym memberships as a bill, and it's not. It's an investment. Like
that's
a fitness. I'm plugging us, but on wherever you go, it is ultimately one of the very few things in life where you get back every penny that you put in.
Your return of investment, right?
And there's absolutely no risk to it. No. Like if you pay whatever they're charging to turn up and you keep turning up and you put the effort in, at whatever level that is, as long as it's that adequate dosage and you stick with it and you do it over time and you compound the interest, because that's the underlying thing of all of it is consistency.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna get that return on investment, and it might not be you might not notice it in a month, it might not be 6 months, it might be 2 years, but you'll turn around and you'll say, okay, I can see I'm getting somewhere.
There was a tipping point there. I can definitely see the benefit. And yeah, like you say, I think that's a really good way to look at it. It's like that investment. And, you know, in years gone by when I was first in fitness, it was like comparing it to like, you know, you'd pay for a nice Starbucks every day and you won't invest in having a gym membership. But there is a bit of truth in that, isn't it? That you wouldn't necessarily think of it as the same ROI, but it is. And then there's that link between your physical and your mental health, which is what helps your productivity and gets your chemicals flowing and makes you feel good. I always feel better. I'm giving you a chuck up here, but I always feel better when I come in after a workout in the morning and these lot can tell. Yeah. You know, and it's just because I'm firing my mentally I'm stimulated as well as physically. By lunchtime, by the way, I'm tired and my muscles ache, but that's just getting old. But I think most people that work alongside us have all got their own, you know, some of us it's dog walking and getting the steps in. You know, for myself, it's training relatively seriously. And there's other people in here that just like to dabble, but they do the stuff that gives them that stimulus to just be a better human. I think that's probably the way I'd explain it. But yeah, I guess you're seeing all types of people coming through the doors now, ranging from people who've had loads of experience down to those who haven't. And is there something, or is there anything that comes up it's repetitive in terms of what people assume when they walk through that door? And
I mean, it's a difficult one. In terms of goal wise, what a lot of people, some people come in going, I want to lose weight. What's nice, what we've had recently is people like, I want to move better. I want to get stronger. And I was like, if I lose weight, that'd be a good thing as well. But no, it's always weight loss. And I usually think it's more. So I always try and find people. We both try and find people's background about it. Like, where have you trained before? What have you done before? Why have you done it? What's the main motivator? And again, Project Why. The whole reason we came about why was like is finding your why. Why, what it is that you want to train, and what it is you're trying to do, achieve, and make it about you, and just try and really build on top of, just get to the ground roots of why you want to do it. Because if you can understand why you want to do it, and if we can understand why you want to do it, it's so much easier for us to help that individual.
That's so good. And I think if more facilities, I'm going to call them facilities because they're not always gyms that deal with wellness and stuff. Had that approach, I think they'd probably have higher retention rates. Knowing what I know about retention rates in the fitness industry, what's interesting about that is we use the why and as a big part of our kind of narrative around your sense of purpose. And there'll be a massive link between that and what you're talking about there. You know, why people do what they do, why it's important for them to be fit, and also what stuff they've been fed in their life. You know,
that's and to be fair, we when we created we left out the last place and came to do our own thing, it was why do we want to do it? Like why
it was our why as well as it was for everyone else.
It's like, why do we want to do it? What do we want to produce? And if you outside look at it, everyone's always go, oh yeah, gyms, money. It's like no, it's like we want to do it because we have a passion in this and we want to do better than anyone else locally. We don't feel like the local environment offers what we offer.
Impact, isn't it? It's your legacy. It's, you know, anyone can kind of guide people that's got some sort of qualification in fitness or health to move better.
Let's not get into qualification of fitness. Could be hours.
Yeah, let's not go there.
The box ticking.
You already know my feelings on this. And you'll get a result, but the long-term goal is legacy, isn't it? And actually, if you're leaving your legacy and you're causing ripples, then you've got a never-ending flow of referrals and people who stay a long time and people who get great results, and they go through the peaks and troughs with you. So they might be in the moment and in peak shape, and then for 3 months life takes a bit of a turn and you're the one that just keeps them going.
A bit important thing, because I mean the difficult thing is as well, people sell results, and again you have to sell results to get people in, which is I understand the marketing side of things, but you can't always be chasing results. Like I'm not a results based in terms of the way I train. I don't really have to set goals that often. I don't need that target all the time because I enjoy what I do and I know where I want to improve on my own fitness. But there's always it's setting the right goals and being able to what Al does really well is help reshape people's goals. And if people are struggling a little bit, I usually go, right, well, let's just have the conversation with Al because he'll be able to pick that out a little bit. I deal a lot more of like the mindset around it, more like the framing of it. But actually just knowing that you don't always have to be chasing a result, or like actually take a look at the next 3 months. So let's say you've got a busy 3 months. So like, right, well, let's don't change your goal from trying to hit 200 kilo squats. First came to my head.
Mega. That's a mega squat.
That was the first came to my head. But it's change your goal from hitting that target, and let's just go. Well, if you can actually manage three sessions a week while you're working away, and actually start to someone a conversation recently who works 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and when it's 2 weeks off, it's like, oh yeah, it's dreadful. I don't train or anything. Like, right, our goal is just to get you moving 3 times a week. Then you do it when you're at home. So why can't you do it when you're away? And then it texts me like, yeah, I'm actually in the gym. I'm actually in the gym now. I've gone out for a walk and just be more conscious about it. It's just being conscious about your activity at all times. And your priorities, right?
Yeah, because if your priorities are in your priority list on a daily basis, of course, we all come in, check our inbox and decide what we're going to do. And then we do loads of training with people on how to prioritize those things. One of the first things I always put in there is your health and your well-being, no matter what it looks like. To some people, it's a 15-minute walk at lunchtime to clear their head. To some people, it's mindfulness. To some people, that's their idea of hell. They could never do that. Yeah. P.S. I can deliver mindfulness, but I can't take mindfulness. That's how it works. And then for other people, it is about, like you say, if I'm saying with you guys, I can be on the road a lot, and I'll say to you, you probably won't see me for 10 days. I am training when I'm away, but it's not structured as when I'm working with you guys. But I have to make a bit of an attempt in my head to have a bit of a contract with myself to say, like, for a start, and I'm going to say thank you to Becky for booking all my hotels, because the first thing she does is check the gym. Because for me, that's a non-negotiable.
And I get it all.
For other people, it's a restaurant or the bar, but for me,
I get it all the time though. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to struggle on my way this week. And it's like, all right, well, like, where's your closest gym? Oh well,
go for a walk.
There are gyms you can just pay for the session. Like, if it is a priority to you, then, and again, that's why we go through priorities with people. It's like, right, is health a priority? Yeah, it is. Okay, you tell me health a priority, but you've done absolutely nothing about it for the past 6 months. This is what health.
It's a truth bomb.
This is what prioritizing health looks like. It's like, while you're going away, like, a priority to you is training, health, and being active and being fit. So you're like, right, where are the gyms? How am I going to get my training session in?
I'm sharper on those sessions absolutely. Because of that.
And you're not thinking, oh, I need to make that up, or I need to get that done.
No.
Or like, it's already in. Like, it may not be the same thing you do with us, but it's still movement, and you still, like, from what you've learned and what you know from your experience, it's still something that's going to help push the needle forward in one way, shape, or form.
And I think for most people, it's just, and that's the thing, that the whole point of how it looks different on everyone. I think people get really hung up and chastise themselves by measuring themselves up against those people on Instagram, Facebook, Gymshark, adverts. We'll go there another time. But I guess the message I'm trying to get across to people today is that your health is your health. Your priorities are your priorities. You've just got to line them up right. But you've got to pick activities or movements or fitness, whatever term you want to use that suits you. And for some people, like I say, it's just basically getting out and getting air and walking. For other people, it is about, it helps them to have structure in a gym. Some of them are really great at taking goals, like setting goals and saying, right, I want to try and aim to do this, but we've got to be pretty smart about those goals and think, what happens if you fall off the wagon? Because it does happen, let's be honest. What happens if you just go, me yesterday, my head was not in it, was it? When I was trying to do cleans, I said to you, it's the wrong bloody day for me today. But you all have a day like that. How do you deal with the setbacks? And I think if you look at it from that perspective, everyone listening today could say, right, what's my environment? So hybrid working, always an interesting conversation for us. It's good in some ways, it's bad in others. It's bad for collaboration sometimes, it's bad for routine, and it can be bad for taking that social kind of aspect out of things. It can be good because you can work your life quite easily around it, work from home, check out the dog, check out the kid, no transit to and from work, all the rest of it. But even that took people out of going to the gym because that was their thing in the morning on the way in. Now they're at home, they're like, great, I'm going to do it at home.
It doesn't
I mean, I mean, for some of us,
some people. To be fair, I am impressed by some people. Someone who joined us recently, like, oh, I train at home 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And she started joining us, and she's enjoying it more. She still does a bit at home. I'm like, fair play.
And I'm like that. I think more people were like that in lockdown, and then they've got out of the habit. So a lot of people have got the kit in their house now. So I guess the point I'm trying to say is, if people do have that equipment, you know, did they enjoy it? It's the first thing I'd ask. So many people went out and bought a really expensive kit, didn't they? And actually, like, say they bought the assault bike, which we know is the devil in disguise. And
It's not.
well, I quite like it. I prefer it over the ski erg. But point being that if they bought it just to force themselves into doing something, the likelihood is it's now a coat rack.
So, so even then, what I would put forward to you is, what COVID did really well was it put the priority back on health and wellness.
It did.
Yeah. All of a sudden, you have got people who will pay astronomical amounts of money to have a bike in the garage that they probably haven't used since. And you go, so you made that investment, you took the step when it was at the front of your mind, and then you've let it slip. And the like I said, we have different approaches. I'm very much black and white.
Never noticed that about
you. But the way, in terms of like consistency, what gets a lot of people back on and away from, sometimes the feelings can get in the way of the result. Yeah, and there's a balance. Like, feelings are important, and you got to,
of course they are.
You've got to rely on them, but you can't let them hinder you at times, because that's where consistency goes out the window. And I had a conversation.
Discomfort is important in some shape or form.
I had a conversation with a couple of members.
Discomfort is necessary for progress.
Yeah.
And they really struggle with, when they have a stressful day, they just don't have the energy to go for a walk. And I was like, look, I get that. And the way I put it to them was, every single decision you're going to make, one's going to take you closer to where you want to be and one isn't.
Yeah.
If 9 out of 10 of those decisions take you closer to where you want to be, then you're going to, whatever it is, you're going to get there eventually. Yeah. The more decisions you make that take you closer, the quicker you're going to get there. That doesn't mean every single one has to be perfect. But what I challenged them with was, you have to both agree that if you're not making the right decision, you're happy with it. Because then that falls into the regret side. So it's like, if you're going to regret it later, you need to do the right thing. If it's a genuine, like the way they were talking about it, some days one of them will get home from work and they just know, like, training's not going to help, or they just need to talk, or they just need to get a takeaway, and they just need to offload.
Self-care,
and you go, well, that's fine. But they've justified that decision, and you've gone, well, that's fine. Just don't make 2 of those decisions in a row. So they justify it now, and they say, right, we can do that tonight, but that means tomorrow morning we're getting up, and instead of having coffee in bed, we're going to have a coffee while we go for a walk. Yeah. Fine.
It's a very small change. It makes a big difference, isn't it?
And just break down the decisions you're making. So it's like, you can still listen to feeling, you can still listen to emotion.
But still make a better
but just justify it with that black and white. It's either going to take me one way or another. And that's how I prefer to operate, because there's less wiggle room for error. And it tends to lead to high percentages of consistency, which over time is that compound investment. Yeah.
Are you a fan of our podcast? If so, make sure you're following us on all of our social media channels. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter by searching Trans2 Performance. By following us, you'll have access to exclusive content, special announcements, and more. Join the T2 community today.
It's about just changing your habits. Like, COVID did it the other way. We had to change our habits this way, but then we adapted around it. And then when we come out of COVID, a whole new ball game started. And I guess wellness what was quite interesting about COVID, so people's investment in wellness went up, because actually after a point they realized how bored they were and how crap they felt. But then other people were working harder than ever. So I can definitely say that during COVID, I've always been into fitness, and I've got the facility to work out in my gym. However, what I was finding was, if I didn't do that, I really struggled because my workload was so high, because I was tied to my desk because I was working from home. I was like 12, 13 hours a day sometimes. So it kind of forced me to kind of create a bit of a new routine around it. But I relied on it more, if anything. So it is about like habit building. And it's also about thinking about what's important to you. So is it important to you to, for instance, the example you used there was a great one. Is it important to you because you want to feel better, but also because you want to connect with people that are close to you? And there's loads of research around buddy systems, isn't there? Around if you train with someone else, from a gym perspective, you get higher retention rates.
But that's why we're on the model. We get far better results. I've had plenty of one-to-ones, but there's always a point, because ultimately, us as personal trainers, as coaches, we're trying to elevate the individual. So we're trying to elevate you in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
And I know one of the first things you came to us was on that first day, you were like, can I have a look at your program? I'm like, absolutely, let's go. I was like,
I did do that, didn't I?
You did. And I was like, I can't wait to tell you how everything's been thought out. It's not just like throwing stuff at the wall, see what sticks, but it's that being able to understand like what you're doing and the reason you're doing it for.
Why that's important.
Why
to
that's
me.
important and knowing how to move forward with it.
Yeah. So I think if you can think of connections as well as a big thing with health or exercise, it's like if you've got people that are close to you that do things like that and that you can connect with them. If you're working out at the gym, there's loads of studies around if you've got someone, a training partner, and how you'll connect, because that social connection's there as well, and it's like a contract. So in our kind of workouts, you notice when people are not there in the morning, and then you say, where were you? You stranded me this morning. Thinking of a typical Saturday session where everyone's in, it's very obvious people come in and kind of gravitate towards each other. So it's like, even if you were thinking about being a bit lazy and being a bit off your guard, you'd come in. And I think with wellness, even for individuals, it's very similar. It's like, what do you want to get from that? Is it your own headspace, or is it the connection, or is there a way to do both in some shape or form? Yeah. So I think that's super important.
You can go too far one way with it. So in terms of like, which I'll raise a really good point of like, I can be black and white. Is it going to help me? Yes. Is it not going to help me? No. But then you can also get a bit too obsessed with that at a certain point. So it's just knowing. Is having that system in place where you can check. You're like, is it going to help me? Yes. Is it like, am I going to benefit from it? Yes or no? Yeah. Is it going to be something that's going to hinder me down the line? Am I overthinking it? Potentially I might be. Am I okay? It's just knowing if you're okay with this and it's something you can actually manage. And if a spanner's thrown into the works, how you deal with that? Because COVID was
one hell of a spanner.
Extreme.
One hell. But at the same time, people set standards. People set standards of maybe like, okay, I can't go to the gym, so I'm walking 10,000 steps a day. They go back to the office, they can't achieve that. Are they happy to cop the fact they're going to have to put more in place to hit that 10,000, or are they happy where they maybe go 6,000, but they've got a few different things in place to? It's finding that balance, and I guess that's what. And going back to my point of like of going to that smaller group system is how we can actually get them to understand how to benefit themselves and build that structure around it, so they're not just on their own overthinking it. They've got other people around it that's a bit more enjoyable, and us actually coaching them how to for the right word, actually think about it. And a lot of my work is getting people to, because I deal a lot more with nutrition, it's getting people to view nutrition differently. And
that's going to take us down a rabbit hole.
But like it's actually thinking
BMI. I'm just going to put that out there.
You said we couldn't say bad words.
But it's a valid point, because I'm raising it because of the health side of things. So like, we talk to a lot of people who are under a lot of pressure, so how like, obviously health can be affected by work, insecurity, stress levels, long hours, commuting, travel. Lack of autonomy can even affect your mental health and your physical health, because of how we're built to deal with the world. Boredom, I put down, definitely. Lack of recognition can affect you, and there's also that physical strain from repetitive strain or lifting, shifting, even driving a lot. For me, that's the thing that gets me. I've got a back injury, so if I'm on the road, I might not have trained, but by the time I've got to Friday, it feels like I have.
Oh yeah.
So there's all those things in the equation there. And then people are then going, and they've got interventions from doctors, physios, and all those things going on. And then they're measuring themselves against some of the widely known ways of saying, yeah, you're in great shape or you're not in great shape. One of the things I put down here was BMI is one of those, what should we say, contentious
BMI
discussion points.
BMI is set up to generalize the population. And if you are someone who's fit, active, healthy, and doesn't and is outside of the scope of that, you don't fit into BMI. In my view, because it's there to create that
awareness,
one system for all. And again,
ultimately it has a lot to answer for, because I mean, if you're going off BMI, I think I've been clinically obese since I was about 14.
I've been overweight since I was 13, yeah.
That's funny.
And as daft as it is, you sit there and go, if you're not someone who's informed, or you're, especially at that sort of younger age, if you're, you take that information on board, that can send you down a rabbit hole itself.
And I started training, I think seriously training around 16, because everyone thought, I mean, more our side. as being guys, everyone followed the Arnie routine. Everyone saw Arnie and it was like...
Have you watched the Netflix series? It's so good, isn't it?
Man.
Yeah. But,
I want his donkey.
Yeah. But yeah, that aesthetic side. But I was quite fortunate to have a teacher who was into it, and when you go to the BMI, like I'm overweight. It's like and he sort of said yes, but you're and like your body types. And when I started learning about ectomorph and all that type of stuff, and then I was like, oh, I'm a mesomorph. That's great. But it was the understanding and actually someone there to tell you, well, no, it doesn't really matter too much. You might be overweight there, but you can put on muscle a little bit easier than most. So you've got a little like you're not fat, you're not overweight in the areas that are going to be an issue to you.
People don't know this stuff though, do they? And the amount of people who
you've just triggered something else.
I felt intense.
It was that whole. You ever heard the muscle weighs more than fat?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's always an interesting debate. But I think again, we're bringing this into like a common denominator in terms of how people understand things. BMI, weight, clothes size, all those things. People do measure their health on those things. And that's always been something I felt really strongly about. So one of the debates we had in the office the other day was around dress sizes. And when I say dress, I don't mean frocks. I just mean when you go to different shops and you'll pick a 10 up and how it fits differently in another shop. Guys probably got the same problem with t-shirts. I don't know. There's probably something there.
Yeah.
But
can be, but
and then how people then will compare weight. And then they don't take into consideration distribution, your height. I remember having a huge debate with people in one of my sort of first leadership roles around body fat and how people wouldn't believe that like those two people lined up and then this person that looked this way must have had more body fat than this person here. And I was like, that's not taking into equation all of the things that you need to consider about the body, skeletal muscle mass and, all the stuff that actually, if you really educated someone, they'd understand what visceral fat is and how you can be a fat, skinny person. Oh, I've just said it. Can be a fat, skinny person as well.
Well, I get it sometimes if everything. I don't want to say normal person. It makes it sound weird, but do you have a conversation with someone who doesn't train?
Yes.
And I sort of said my way. Oh, really? I thought that's sort of similar to me.
It's distribution.
They think I'm lighter than I am. It's again, that's a view on fitness. Fitness needs to be light,
Scottish
slim,
beef.
Yeah. I need that T-shirt as well.
I know you do.
But that is the perception of fitness is a
and that in a roundabout way, it is a rabbit hole, but we'll come back. We were on a conversation yesterday about sort of the responsibility of occupational health and wellbeing, and how 9 times out of 10 it's that person who doesn't understand who is in charge of that budget.
Yes,
and then falling down this rabbit hole.
But because of that misunderstanding, that budget in itself gets misspent.
Yes, of course.
And then that budget, you talk to most people who are in that position, the first thing that goes in those large companies when they're cutting back is education, and then it's well-being, one way or the other.
Yeah, and ED&I gets cut back as well. Actually, it's a really well-known one that's cut back. Yeah.
You sit there and you go, well, if you were actually spending that money instead of putting on a random boot camp or a 5-a-side tournament, those things we spoke about
on boot camps, please. Please.
But instead of investing in a gesture that ticks the budget box, if you actually invested in providing this information to people and put on seminars where people can come in and answer these questions and talk about the impact on mental health and productivity and especially employers, if you actually got to sit in front of employees and talk about, like, if you invested this money in people, not necessarily just training, but whether it's time to go walk, whether it's longer breaks, all those sorts of investments you can make, the productivity off the back of that, because they are happier, fitter, genuinely more well, that's an investment that no one should ever go back on.
That is an ROI. That's what you were saying about, that's long term. And a lot of people disguise this cultural stuff, the beanbag generation, where we've got a great culture because we've got a beanbag and got free coffee in the staff room and stuff. And for me, that's not good culture. We spend half our jobs here unpicking that assumption and what good culture. But I think you're right. The well-being bit slots directly into that in terms of your return of investment. If you've got happier workforce, you've got higher levels of self-esteem, probably pushing the barriers a little bit more. You've got prevention of injuries, illnesses, sicknesses, all those things. Social exchanges, if you're getting it right.
And also on that, and we're looping back to what we said earlier, is people's entry into fitness as well. And again, where it does go wrong, it's just like, right, we'll do some wellness for the team. let's get a boot camp. I will try not to go down the boot camp rabbit hole. But it doesn't
Other
serve.
exercise classes are available.
but no, I've never seen a company, and this is something we want to push a little bit more locally because of us being hot. I've never seen a company go, I want to invest on my team and getting stronger and actually healthier. And everyone just goes, that's fair. It's probably more the actual gyms get a bit excited about it and go, let's chuck a boot camp on. But
even
people,
that term scares people.
Yeah, and everyone is you got 24 people in a circuit format running around. You've got some people who are naturally quite fit, they maybe do a bit of running. Some people who can't move, and you can't spend the time with them. So they're the person who's quite fit. Like, oh, I love that. I'm sweating, and I really push. Like, the person who's never done fitness in their life has gone, I hated that. Yeah, that was awful. That's my view of fitness, and then that's it. That's when it goes down.
And health,
and again, one of the things we try and do is break down that barrier from the off. Yeah, and say, look, that is not fitness, and we can get to that level, but you also don't have to get to that level. No, you do strength. Like we're strength based because we think it's the best. It is the format to do because that's how you build people stronger for life. Fitness,
and that's it for life. Is
for
probably.
Life,
Perceptions is such a big thing, and that's kind of one of the things I wanted to sort of kind of hone back into before we kind of cover some key things to finish off. But the outfit that looks different on everyone is all sometimes based around perceptions you have.
Absolutely.
You have to be, look like a runner. If you enjoy running, you have to look like a runner. If you enjoy weightlifting, you're probably going to have to accept that you're going to look like Arnie at some point. And there's all these perceptions around.
When is that point? Tell me. I'm still waiting.
I know, I'm still waiting. But I'll use myself as an example. I've always been pretty short, put muscle on. I am someone who puts muscle on quite quickly. I'm not your traditional small girl. I can exercise as much as I want, and I've never ever been traditionally skinny. Is that the word? And that's made me feel like a bit of an outcast sometimes, particularly when I was in health and fitness, because when I entered the industry, it was all about size 0. And anyone who was even advertising a class like Body Pump would look like they had no muscle mass. And it used to confuse the hell out of me, but that's how it was. I think what I'm really keen to land on today is that, and you guys are all about this, it's we've got to shelve these perceptions. We've got to look at, ultimately, for the people listening to this podcast, how important is their health? What does that look like to them? Where does it get prioritized? And ultimately, don't chastise yourself if you're not a big fitness person, in inverted commas. Do what feels good to you. And there's so many ways to do that, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, you've sort of tied two of the key words together, which is there's perception and there's culture.
Yes.
And culture 9 times out of 10 dictates what the perception is going to be, because you can take information on, and how you will feel about that information most of the time, if you don't know, is how everybody else reacts to it.
Yeah.
And if the culture was a more educated culture where it's as long as you're doing what works for you and you're enjoying it and you keep doing it, all good.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you got a culture where everyone wants to throw their 50p in and their opinion, and if it clashes, normally with the uneducated, that's where the perception goes wrong.
Yeah.
And if we can simplify, and we've said it a lot, but if we can simplify the marketing to enjoy the process and celebrated the process more often, then the goals will come, like the achievements will come.
Yeah.
There's so much more scope for that in strength training as well.
Yeah.
Because it's not just getting stronger, which everyone thinks the more you lift, the bigger you get. It's being able to move better, feel more comfortable in your clothes, feel more comfortable in movement. And ultimately you will get stronger.
You feel empowered. It helps.
Yeah, empowered.
I think it's really people always say about going for a run to get those and yes, you do, but I don't think people realize the benefits of strength training. Even just the mastery side of it. If you're going to go and do stuff with a bar, sometimes the mastery side is the fun bit and the bit that cognitive.
Let's take a clean, for example. When you get a clean right, it feels great.
Oh, it does. It does. You're right. It does.
It does feel great.
Strong.
I mean,
if you can get it right.
Strong doesn't have to mean physically strong.
No.
Strength training is resilience training. It's a controlled environment where you build tolerance to stress.
Yeah.
And you put in we do specifically. But we'll put you in stressful scenarios to see how you cope.
I can confirm that.
Yeah, and it's and what you'll
not
find
like
is
SAS.
no, not that stressful. But
Spencer, where are you?
You see the people who I've heard a lot of podcasts recently where they sort of ask people now, "Do you train?" Because they know if that person is training consistently, you know that somebody who has a bit of discipline, who makes good decisions, who will commit, who will keep showing up, who has a little bit more. What's the right word? Not resilience, but that resistance to pressure.
Yeah.
They know that when things get stressful, they've got a little bit more mental resilience in there.
And they've got an output as well.
And it's those things that are often overlooked because they hear people play strong and they think, I'm going to get big.
Yeah.
And they are the top 2% of people who want to do that.
Yeah.
Actually look that way. Whereas the reality of it is strength testing is strength in general, mental strength, resilience, physical strength.
And this is all good stuff to have, to take into the equation about your performance, at work and outside of work, reducing your sickness, more engagement, more productivity, stress reduction. That's the biggest thing for me. These two know that. Prevention of chronic diseases. There's so many pieces of research out there about that, about people who have got like very kind of, jobs that don't require them to move much and the increase in that and the stress levels as well. And risk management, like that's even a big thing in organizations. You get people to, I don't know, move better, have more mental clarity, then less accidents happen at work and less problems. So
even from if there's a trip, I don't know why I've gone to that PPI advert, but like a trip and fall at work, if you're putting your body under stress and it's being forced to repair and recover, you're gonna repair and recover better.
Is that the one where they fall over in the lobby and the lawyers are there to pick them up?
It's so bad, isn't it? But thank you guys. It's been a really good chat. I think some of the stuff that we summarised today, the 5 key things I've taken from that is it's got to be individual, so something that feels good to you and is in line with your own goals and maybe even a little bit your genes and the things that are important. You've got to enjoy it. Because if you're having to force yourself through, you're probably not going to stick to it. Correct. You're probably going to learn to hate it, actually. It's got to be sustainable in the long term. So that's, part of that as well. Show self-compassion to yourself. So don't get hung up on it.
Take it seriously, but not too seriously.
Yeah.
You need to have that. You need to take it seriously enough so that you're making a benefit, but not too seriously that it becomes an illness.
Yeah, definitely. And last one I put down was listen to your body. Yeah. Because for me, it is about, week on week, day on day, you do feel different.
Or learn to listen to your body.
Yes, exactly. And some of that is about how you feel mentally as well as physically, isn't it? It's like, are the two lining up today? And sometimes there is a tipping point. You go, mentally, I don't feel very strong. Physically, I feel a bit weaker, but I know if I go do something today, I'll probably feel stronger. It's a bit of a vicious cycle sometimes, isn't it? But so there's just 5 things to consider. But thank you for popping in. Really enjoyed that.
Really enjoyed that.
We could probably keep going for another hour, but instead I think we'll save it for another 10 podcasts.
At least about 15 podcasts.
Thank you guys, and we'll see you again soon for another T2 Hubcast.
We are going to explore print.
What are you talking about? What's print?
Print is this fantastic model that we use with a lot of our clients. It's all about unconscious motivators. So it's a model based on motivations that are responsible for our thoughts, for our feelings, for our actions, because they operate at that deeper level. If you really want to take it to the next level in regards to your self-development, whether it be for you as an individual, or for your team, for your organisation, then get in touch because we'd love to help support.
When I say it's changed my life, it really has. You guys need to get in touch with the T2 Towers.
Yeah.
Send an email, follow us on social media. Thank you very much. I'm James Cooper.
And I'm Denise Casserly.